You are not getting upstairs. The security guard said it without raising his voice, which somehow made the refusal feel more final. The black woman standing at the security desk inside the downtown Chicago headquarters did not move. She had arrived 12 minutes early for a 10 o'clock appointment on the executive floor, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit with a leather portfolio tucked beneath one arm. Her government-issued identification rested on the polished counter beside a printed appointment confirmation. The white security guard had both in front of him, yet the glass access gate remained locked. She looked at the digital clock behind his shoulder. 9:56. For minutes remained before the meeting she had spent days preparing for was supposed to begin. "I am asking you to verify the appointment," she said. The guard glanced at the confirmation again, but only for a second. "And I am telling you that I cannot let you through." She kept her voice level. "The executive office can confirm it." "Ma'am, people walk in here every day saying they have meetings." His tone carried the practiced patience of someone who believed the conversation should already be over. "That is why I brought identification and the confirmation." She slid the paper 2 inches closer to him. The guard did not touch it. Employees moved through the neighboring turnstiles, tapping badges against the readers as green lights flashed one after another. A few glanced toward the desk before continuing toward the elevators. She felt those glances without looking back. Being delayed was one thing. Being made into a spectacle while presenting exactly what had been requested was another. "What name do you have?" the guard asked. She repeated it slowly. He checked the monitor, not seeing it. The appointment was arranged directly through the executive office. "What department?" "It is not a department meeting." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "Then who exactly are you meeting?" She hesitated for less than a second, not because she did not know the answer, but because something about the question had changed. It no longer sounded like verification. It sounded like disbelief. "The chairman." The guard looked at her, then at the charcoal suit, the leather portfolio, and finally back at her face. "The chairman." "Yes." He gave a short breath through his nose and turned toward the monitor again. "Are you sure you have the right building?" She stared at him. Behind the desk, brushed steel letters displayed the company name she had read on every document connected to the meeting. "I am standing at the address printed on the confirmation. There are several affiliated offices downtown. This says this building, this lobby. Today, 10 o'clock. She pointed to the line without pushing the paper any closer. "Please call the number listed there." The guard leaned back slightly. "I cannot call the chairman's office every time somebody shows up with a piece of paper." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the portfolio, then relaxed. "Then call executive reception." Same answer. The clock changed to 9:58. She looked toward the bank of elevators beyond the security gates. Somewhere above her, people were preparing for a meeting she was supposed to attend. She had no idea whether they knew she had arrived. "If there is a problem with my appointment, let them tell me that," she said. "I will leave." The guard shook his head. "I have already told you what the problem is. You are not cleared. You have told me you cannot find my name. That means you are not cleared. Those are not the same thing." For the first time, irritation crossed his face. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the entrance if you are going to keep arguing with me." She looked down at her identification, then at the untouched confirmation. Everything that could verify her identity was sitting within reach of his hand. The one thing he had not done was make the call. 9:59 appeared on the clock. She drew a slow breath, placed the confirmation squarely beside her identification, and met his eyes. "I am not asking you to take my word for anything," she said. "I am asking you to check." The guard looked past her toward the next visitor approaching the desk. "Step aside, please." She picked up her portfolio but left the confirmation where it was. Then she moved 3 feet to the side of the security station, still outside the locked gate. The clock changed again. 10 o'clock. Her meeting had begun, and the people upstairs had no idea she was standing in the lobby. She remained beside the security station while the morning traffic continued around her. Every few seconds, another badge reader chirped and another green light appeared. She could have called the executive office herself, but the confirmation email had instructed visitors to check in with lobby security and wait for authorization. She had followed those instructions precisely. Ignoring them now and trying to bypass the process would only give the guard another reason to say she was the problem. She opened her leather portfolio instead. Inside were 2 copies of the presentation she had prepared, a legal pad filled with handwritten notes, several pages of financial research, and the original email confirming the meeting. She had reviewed those pages over breakfast that morning, checking figures one final time before leaving her apartment early enough to account for downtown traffic. Nothing about the meeting had been casual. The chairman's office had contacted her after weeks of correspondence concerning a corporate initiative that could affect hundreds of employees and several major community partnerships. She had been asked to come prepared to discuss implementation, oversight, and the risks senior leadership had overlooked. She had taken that request seriously. At 10:02, she checked her phone. No missed calls. No message from upstairs. She considered sending an email, then stopped. The executive team might already be seated around a conference table expecting security to send her up. She looked toward the guard. He was helping the visitor who had approached after her, a middle-aged white man wearing a gray suit and carrying a laptop bag. "Good morning," the guard said. His voice sounded different now, lighter and almost conversational. The man placed his driver's license on the counter. "I am here to see Daniel Mercer in operations." The guard searched the system. "I am not finding you on today's visitor list." The man frowned. "That is strange. His assistant set it up yesterday." "No problem. Give me a second." The black woman slowly lowered the page she had been pretending to read. The guard picked up the desk phone. "What is Mercer's extension?" "I do not know." "That is all right. I can look it up." The guard searched the directory, dialed, and waited. Less than 30 seconds later, his expression changed. "Perfect. Thank you." He hung up, printed a temporary badge, and slid it across the counter. "You are all set. Elevators are straight ahead." The man thanked him and walked through the gate when it flashed green. She watched until the elevator doors closed behind him. Then she looked back at the guard. Her appointment confirmation was still lying exactly where she had left it. The guard noticed her looking. "Is there something else?" he asked. She closed the portfolio carefully. "You could not find his name either." The guard's expression tightened. His situation was different. "How?" "He gave me a contact." "So did I." She pointed toward the confirmation. "The executive office number is printed at the bottom. I already explained that I am not calling the chairman's office based on an unverified document." She studied him for a moment. "You did not verify his document before you called." He knew who he was meeting. "So do I." He gave me a department. "I gave you the executive office." The guard shifted his weight and glanced toward the line forming behind the desk. "Ma'am, I am not going to debate security procedure with you. I am not asking you to debate it. I am asking you to apply it the same way." Two people waiting nearby became suddenly interested in their phones. The humiliation came quietly, not from shouting, but from being forced to explain in public why the same courtesy extended to someone else had somehow become unreasonable when she requested it. She felt heat rise beneath her collar, but she kept her hands still. Anger would not make the appointment more legitimate. Volume would not make the confirmation more real. "You had a missing name," she said. "You made a call." "I have a missing name. I am asking you to make a call." The guard looked at her for several seconds. "And I have made my decision. Before checking. Based on my experience." There it was. Not a written policy. Not a failed identification check. Experience. Judgment. Instinct. Words broad enough to sound professional and vague enough to hide whatever had happened between seeing her face and deciding she did not belong upstairs. She looked at the clock. 10:05. 5 minutes late. She imagined the empty chair in the conference room. She imagined someone checking the agenda and wondering whether she had failed to show. That possibility hurt more than the stairs in the lobby. She had spent years building a reputation for preparation and reliability. Now, without knowing her, one man at a security desk was allowing senior leadership to form the opposite impression. She reached for the confirmation and turned it so the phone number faced him directly. "One call," she said. "If they tell you they have never heard of me, I will walk out that door and you will never see me again." The guard did not reach for the phone. "I need you to wait away from the desk." She held his gaze, then nodded once. "All right." She stepped back to the same place beside the glass wall. Outside, pedestrians moved along the sidewalk under the morning light. Inside, the elevators continued rising toward floors she could not reach. She looked at her phone again. 10:06. Then, somewhere beyond the locked security gates, an executive elevator began descending toward the lobby. The executive elevator indicator moved steadily downward, but she did not notice it at first. Her attention remained on the security desk, where the guard had already turned toward another arriving employee, as though the question between them had been settled. He was not inexperienced. That much was obvious. He knew the building, recognized regular employees, understood the visitor system, and moved through routine checks with practiced efficiency. When a delivery driver approached with a manifest, he checked the destination before directing him toward a service entrance. When an employee forgot her badge, he asked for identification, searched the internal directory, and confirmed her status within a minute. Each interaction followed a recognizable pattern: question, evidence, verification, decision. The black woman watched from beside the glass wall and realized that the process itself was not the problem. The problem was that the process had stopped when it reached her. At 10:07, she stepped toward the desk again, leaving enough distance that no one could accuse her of interfering with the line. "I want to understand something," she said. The guard looked up with visible impatience. "I have already explained the situation. You explained your decision. I am asking about the procedure." "The procedure is that visitors need authorization. And when authorization is missing from the screen?" He exhaled. "It depends." "On what?" "On the circumstances." She glanced toward the desk phone. "The gentleman before me was not on the screen. You called his contact. He was here for operations. And I am here for the executive office. Which is exactly why I am being careful." She absorbed the answer. On its surface, it sounded reasonable. Access to senior leadership should require care. But greater care should have meant greater verification, not less. "Then verify more," she said. "Call executive reception. Ask them for my full name. Ask them what time they expected me. Ask them whether they sent this confirmation. You do not even have to tell them I am standing here." The guard's jaw tightened. "You are making this more complicated than it needs to be. I am standing where you told me to stand." Her voice remained quiet. "You are the one refusing the simplest way to resolve it." A younger security employee at the far end of the station briefly looked toward them, then returned to his monitor. The guard noticed. His shoulders became more rigid. "I have worked this entrance for 11 years, he said. "I know when something does not look right." She felt the words land differently from everything before them. "What does not look right?" He hesitated. "Your appointment." "What about it?" "People do not usually walk in off the street and meet directly with the chairman." "I did not walk in off the street asking for a meeting. I arrived for one that was scheduled." "That is what you were saying." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "No, that is what the document says." She pointed to the paper again. "And you have chosen not to verify the document." The guard glanced toward the confirmation, but still did not pick up the phone. "There are security concerns you may not understand." "Then explain the requirement." "I have failed." He did not answer immediately. "My identification matches the name on the confirmation. The address matches this building. The date is today. The time is 10 o'clock. There is a telephone number you can independently locate in your own directory. Which requirement have I failed?" The lobby noise seemed to recede around them. The guard looked at his monitor, then back at her. "I am not comfortable clearing you." She waited. "Based on what?" "Based on the total situation." She almost smiled, but there was nothing amusing in it. The total situation appeared to mean everything except the evidence sitting on his counter. She thought of the white visitor whose missing authorization had been treated as an administrative inconvenience rather than proof that he did not belong. No suspicion had entered the guard's voice then. No lecture about people walking in off the street. No demand that the visitor somehow prove the appointment before security performed the verification designed to prove it. "You were comfortable making a call for someone whose name was also missing," she said. "I already told you that was different." "You keep saying different. You have not told me why." His face hardened. "Ma'am, this conversation is finished." She looked directly at him. "For you, maybe." The words were not threatening. They were simply true. Somewhere upstairs, the consequences of the delay were already beginning. She checked the time again. 10:08. 8 minutes late. Her phone finally vibrated in her hand. For an instant, hope moved through her, but the notification was only an automated calendar reminder for the meeting that had already started. She silenced it and returned the phone to her portfolio. Behind the security desk, the executive elevator indicator reached the lobby level. A soft chime sounded. The guard glanced toward it automatically. The polished doors began to separate. She remained beside the glass wall, unaware that the question he had refused to verify was about to walk directly into the room. The elevator doors opened, but the woman did not immediately recognize the man who stepped into the lobby. He was in his early 60s, dressed in a dark tailored suit without the cluster of assistants she might have expected around someone from the executive floor. A woman carrying a tablet followed several steps behind him. The security guard straightened almost instantly. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett." The man gave a brief nod, then started toward the main entrance. He made it 3 steps before stopping. His eyes had moved past the security desk and settled on the woman standing beside the glass wall with a leather portfolio beneath her arm. His expression changed. "Ms. Carter." She turned toward him. The name registered first, then the face. She had seen his photograph in annual reports, shareholder communications, and the materials she reviewed while preparing for the meeting. "Chairman Richard Bennett." "Mr. Bennett." He looked at the clock above the security station and then back at her. "We have been waiting for you upstairs." The guard's posture stiffened. The chairman glanced toward the locked access gate between them. "Did you just arrive?" "No, sir," she said. "I arrived before 10. His eyes moved to the security desk. Her identification and appointment confirmation were still lying on the polished counter. "Then why are you down here?" For the first time that morning, the guard seemed uncertain about where to place his hands. "There was an issue with her clearance, Mr. Bennett." The chairman walked toward the desk. He did not raise his voice. "What issue?" "Her name was not showing on the visitor list." "That is possible. My office arranged the meeting directly." The guard nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. That appears to be what happened." Ms. Carter watched him. Only minutes earlier, the missing name had been treated as sufficient reason to doubt everything she presented. Now it had become a simple administrative possibility. Chairman Bennett picked up the appointment confirmation. His eyes moved across the page. "This came from my office." "I understand that now. Did you call upstairs?" The question was quiet. The guard hesitated. "No, sir." The chairman looked at him. "Why not?" "I was trying to follow security procedure." "What procedure prevented you from verifying an appointment?" The guard glanced toward Ms. Carter, then back at the chairman. The circumstances did not seem clear. Chairman Bennett looked at the driver's license beside the confirmation. "Her identification matches the document." "Yes, sir." "The date is correct." "Yes." "The time is correct." "Yes, sir." "The address is correct." The guard said nothing. Chairman Bennett turned the confirmation over and looked at the telephone number printed at the bottom. "And this number reaches executive reception." Silence spread across the desk. The younger security employee several feet away kept his eyes fixed on his monitor. Employees passing through the gates slowed almost imperceptibly before continuing. Ms. Carter felt no satisfaction in the attention. If anything, it made the previous 10 minutes feel more exposed. Chairman Bennett placed the paper back on the counter. "I asked you a question. Did you attempt to verify this with my office?" "No, sir." "Why?" The guard took a breath. "I made a judgment based on the situation." Ms. Carter recognized the phrase immediately. Chairman Bennett apparently did too. "What situation?" The guard's face tightened. "We get people claiming appointments that are not legitimate. I have to make judgment calls." "Of course you do," Bennett said. "That is part of your job." The guard seemed relieved for half a second. Then the chairman continued. "But judgment is supposed to tell you when to verify. It is not supposed to replace verification." The relief disappeared. Ms. Carter looked down at her portfolio. She had wanted someone to make that distinction 10 minutes ago, but hearing it now did not erase the fact that her meeting had begun without her. Chairman Bennett turned to her. "I apologize for the delay. We can go upstairs now." She could have simply followed him. The gate would open. The meeting would continue. The embarrassment could be left behind in the lobby. Instead, she remained where she was. "Before we do," she said, "there is something you should know." The guard looked at her. Chairman Bennett waited. "Another visitor came in after me. His name was not on the list either." The guard's eyes dropped toward the counter. Security called his contact and cleared him in less than a minute. Chairman Bennett slowly turned toward the guard. "Is that accurate?" "His appointment was with operations." "That was not my question." The guard swallowed. "Yes, I called operations." "And when Ms. Carter asked you to call executive reception?" Another silence. "I declined." Chairman Bennett's expression remained controlled, but something in it became colder. Why was verification appropriate for one visitor and not the other? The guard opened his mouth, then stopped. Ms. Carter looked at the man who had blocked her and saw something different from the authority he had carried minutes earlier. He was searching for an explanation that matched the evidence. There was none yet. Chairman Bennett did not rescue him from the silence. He simply waited. "Finally," the guard said, I believe the situations were different. Miss Carter met his eyes. That is what you kept telling me. The chairman looked between them, then toward the security gate. The green access light remained dark. Open the gate, he said. The guard reached for the control. Before he pressed it, Miss Carter spoke again. Please wait. Both men looked at her. She placed her hand lightly on the leather portfolio. I do want to go upstairs, she said. But I do not want this resolved just because the chairman happened to come downstairs. Then we should not resolve it that way, Chairman Bennett said. His hand remained at his side, and the guard's fingers stopped above the gate control. Miss Carter looked at Bennett carefully. She had expected irritation, perhaps an apology followed by an immediate escort upstairs. Instead, he seemed to understand what she was asking. If the only lesson from the morning was that security should recognize people connected to powerful executives, then nothing important would change. What would have happened, she asked, if you had stayed upstairs? The question was directed at Bennett, but the guard answered first. She would have remained here until we could establish authorization. Miss Carter turned toward him. You had a way to establish it. I made a judgment call. You keep saying that. Her voice remained calm. But your judgment did not lead you to check. It led you to stop checking. The guard looked toward Bennett. Mr. Bennett, with respect, we have to protect this building. I cannot simply accept every document someone brings through that door. No one is asking you to, Bennett replied. Miss Carter asked you to verify it. The guard pressed his lips together. Chairman Bennett turned toward the younger security employee at the neighboring station. What is the normal procedure when a scheduled visitor does not appear in the system? The younger employee hesitated, clearly uncomfortable being drawn into the conversation. We confirm the host, sir, usually by directory number or the department reception desk. Bennett nodded. And if the host is an executive? We call executive reception. The answer hung in the air. Miss Carter did not look at the guard. She did not need to. Bennett asked another question. Was there any instruction this morning preventing calls to executive reception? Not that I know of, sir. Bennett thanked him and turned back. The guard's face had lost the certainty it carried when Miss Carter first approached. I was being cautious, he said. Caution is part of your responsibility, Bennett replied. Consistency is also part of it. Miss Carter glanced toward the lobby entrance. The white visitor who had been cleared earlier was long gone. She remembered how quickly the guard had transformed that man's missing authorization into a minor problem to solve. He had asked questions designed to help him enter. With her, the questions had felt designed to confirm that she should not. There is another difference, she said. Bennett looked at her. When the other visitor was missing from the system, he was treated like someone whose appointment needed confirmation. When I was missing from the system, I was treated like someone whose appointment needed to be doubted. The guard shifted slightly. I never said anything about your race. Miss Carter held his gaze. I did not say you did. The response seemed to unsettle him more than an accusation might have. I am telling you what happened. You can decide whether you are willing to examine why. Bennett looked at the appointment confirmation again. What time did Ms. Carter arrive? The guard checked the visitor terminal. 9:48. And what time did she first ask you to contact my office? The guard hesitated. Shortly after that. It is now 10:12. Bennett looked toward his assistant, who had remained several feet away. Please notify the boardroom that we are delaying the meeting. His assistant nodded and stepped aside with her tablet. Ms. Carter immediately shook her head. You do not have to delay everyone because of this. They can wait, Bennett said. You already did. There was no drama in his voice, only a recognition that the lost time belonged to her too. He then addressed the guard. Do not delete or modify anything connected to this check-in. The visitor record, camera timestamps, desk notes, and access log need to remain exactly as they are. The guard looked alarmed. Am I being suspended? I have not made that decision. Bennett's answer came quickly. And I am not going to make it in this lobby based on 10 minutes of conversation. Security management and human resources will review what happened, including how comparable visitors were handled. Ms. Carter appreciated the distinction. Accountability did not require pretending they already knew every answer. Bennett was preserving evidence instead of manufacturing a conclusion. The guard looked toward her, and for the first time his expression held something other than authority or defensiveness. There was uncertainty, perhaps embarrassment. Miss Carter, he began, I was not trying to embarrass you. She considered the sentence. I believe you may not have intended to. He waited for more. But I was still standing over there while people walked past me, wondering whether the chairman thought I had failed to show up. The guard lowered his eyes. I understand. I do not think you do yet, she said, without cruelty. But you can. Bennett allowed the silence to remain. Then Ms. Carter reached for her identification and appointment confirmation. The paper felt warmer now from the lobby lights and the number of hands that had finally touched it. Bennett gestured toward the access gate. Are you ready? She looked at the guard. He reached toward the control again, but this time he stopped before pressing it and picked up the desk phone. Executive reception, he said when someone answered. I need to verify a 10 o'clock visitor for Chairman Bennett. Ms. Carter watched him provide her full name, listen, and then say, confirmed. Thank you. He hung up. Only then did he press the control. The light on the gate changed from red to green. Ms. Carter stepped forward but paused beside the opening. That, she said quietly, was all I asked you to do. Then she walked through. The elevator ride to the executive floor lasted less than a minute, but for Ms. Carter it created the first real silence of the morning. Chairman Bennett stood beside her without trying to fill it with apologies. His assistant remained near the control panel, reading a message on her tablet. Through the elevator's polished walls, Ms. Carter could see her own reflection. Charcoal suit still neat, leather portfolio still held firmly beneath one arm, expression composed enough that no one upstairs would know what had happened unless she told them. She wondered how many people had learned to become good at that particular kind of composure. The doors opened onto a quiet executive corridor. Bennett's assistant walked ahead to notify the boardroom while Bennett slowed his pace. I want you to know something before we go in, he said. Ms. Carter looked at him. Your being invited here does not make what happened downstairs more serious. She waited. It only made it visible to me. The word surprised her. Bennett continued. If you had been interviewing for an entry-level position, delivering equipment, or visiting someone on the 5th floor, the verification procedure should still have been applied consistently. Ms. Carter nodded. That is the part one did not want lost. It will not be. They reached a wall of windows overlooking the river. Morning light spread across the floor in long, pale rectangles. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. The anger she had held carefully behind professional language began to settle into something heavier. She had spent the entire morning proving that she was supposed to be somewhere she had already been invited. The guard's refusal had lasted only minutes, but each minute had forced her to choose between defending herself and protecting the calm demeanor people expected from her. May I ask you something? Bennett said. Of course. When he told you to step aside, why did you stay? She looked toward the city below. Because leaving would have made his assumption look correct. Bennett said nothing. And pushing harder would have given him another reason to focus on my behavior instead of the appointment. She adjusted the portfolio against her side. So I stood there. The simplicity of the sentence carried more weight than she intended. Bennett looked back toward the elevator. You should not have had to calculate all of that just to enter a building. Ms. Carter's expression softened slightly, though not into a smile. But I did. His assistant returned from the boardroom. They are ready whenever you are. Bennett nodded, but before moving, he asked Ms. Carter whether she wanted a few minutes. She checked the clock. 10:18. No, I prepared for this meeting. I would rather have it. Inside the boardroom, 8 people sat around a long walnut table with presentation folders arranged in front of them. Several stood when she entered. No one asked why she was late. Bennett simply said, "Thank you for waiting." Ms. Carter was delayed downstairs. Then he gave her the floor. She opened her portfolio and began. Within minutes, the lobby disappeared behind the work she had come to do. She spoke about accountability structures, community partnerships, measurable outcomes, and the risks of building programs around assumptions rather than listening to the people affected by them. The irony was not lost on her, but she never mentioned the security desk. She did not need to. Her preparation was evident in every page. When a board member challenged one of her projections, she answered with data. When another questioned whether the proposed oversight process would slow implementation, she explained why speed without verification often created larger problems later. Bennett watched her for a moment at that answer, then lowered his eyes to his notes. Nearly 90 minutes later, the meeting ended with a request for a revised implementation proposal and a second session the following week. As the board members left, Bennett remained behind. You gave us exactly what we needed, he said. Ms. Carter closed her portfolio. That is why I came. Downstairs, the security desk was quieter. The guard sat in a small office behind the main station with his supervisor and a human resources representative. On the desk between them were printed access logs from that morning. The white visitor's record appeared several lines above Ms. Carter's. One showed a verification call completed within seconds. The other showed no call until after 10:12. The supervisor placed both records side by side. Walk me through why these were handled differently. The guard stared at the pages. Earlier, he had answered similar questions with phrases like experience, circumstances, and judgment. On paper, those words looked thinner. He began explaining the first visitor: business attire, operations contact, familiar type of appointment. Then he stopped. His supervisor waited. And Ms. Carter? The guard looked at her record. Government identification matched. Confirmation matched. Executive reception number available. No verification attempt. He rubbed his thumb slowly along the edge of the page. For the first time, there was no black woman standing in front of him to argue against. No chairman asking questions. No line of visitors waiting behind her. There were only 2 records and one uncomfortable difference. I thought something was off, he said quietly. His supervisor asked, "What specifically?" The guard looked down again. This time, he had no answer. The guard remained silent long enough for the hum of the small office ventilation system to become noticeable. His supervisor did not repeat the question. The human resources representative simply waited with a pen resting above her notes. On the desk, the 2 visitor records remained side by side. Same morning, same missing authorization in the system. 2 different responses. The guard finally leaned back. "I cannot give you a specific reason," he said. His supervisor looked at him. "But you were specific downstairs. You said the circumstances were different." "That is what I believed." "What circumstances?" The guard looked again at Ms. Carter's record. He could remember her standing at the desk with the charcoal suit, the leather portfolio, the identification, the printed confirmation. He remembered asking whether she had the right building. He remembered the certainty he had felt before making that question sound reasonable. "I thought the appointment did not fit," he said. "Did not fit what?" The human resources representative asked. He opened his mouth, then stopped. The answer he had used all morning no longer sounded professional when he had to define it. Experience, instinct, judgment. None explained why the white visitor had been given assistance while Ms. Carter had been given suspicion. "I made an assumption," he said finally. His supervisor did not soften the question. "About the document?" The guard stared at the access log. "About her." The admission was quiet. No one congratulated him for making it. The human resources representative wrote something down. "We will review the camera footage, the visitor records, your prior incident history, and the applicable security procedures before determining the appropriate action," she said. "Until that review is complete, you will not make independent exceptions to visitor verification procedures." The guard nodded. "Understood. This is not about being less careful," his supervisor added. "It is about making sure caution does not become selective." The guard looked through the office window toward the security gates. For 11 years, he had thought of himself as the person who noticed what others missed. That belief had become part of his professional identity. Now he was being asked to consider that he might also have been seeing things that were never there. Upstairs, Ms. Carter was packing the last of her papers when Chairman Bennett's assistant entered the boardroom. "Mr. Bennett asked whether you have a moment before you leave." Ms. Carter nodded. Bennett was standing near the windows when she joined him. "Security management has begun the review," he said. "I wanted you to hear that from me rather than receive a generic email later." "Thank you." They found the 2 visitor records. Ms. Carter waited. "The difference is as clear in the system as you described it." She looked down at the portfolio in her hands. There was relief in being believed, but it was not triumph. She had known what happened before anyone opened a log. The record merely gave the institution a language it could not dismiss. Bennett continued. "I also asked for a broader sample. Not just your visit and the man who came after you. I want several months of exceptions reviewed." Ms. Carter looked up. "Why?" "Because if we only examine what happened to someone invited to meet the chairman, we learn almost nothing about the people who never had a chairman come downstairs." That answer held her attention. "That matters," she said. "I think so too." Bennett paused. "There is something else. I am sorry." She had already heard an apology downstairs, but this one sounded different. "For what happened?" she asked. "For having a system that depended on you remaining calm long enough for someone with authority to notice." She took a slow breath. The morning returned to her in small details. The red light on the gate, the untouched telephone, the other visitor disappearing into an elevator, the clock turning past 10 while she stood 3 feet from the desk. I was calm because I needed to get upstairs, she said. Not because it did not hurt. Bennett nodded. I understand. She looked at him for a moment. I do not need him humiliated. That is not the purpose of the review. And I do not need anyone pretending security should stop questioning people. Agreed. I need the question to be the same question for everybody. Bennett's expression settled. Then that is where we start. When Ms. Carter returned to the lobby several minutes later, the main desk was being handled by another security employee. The guard was still inside the office behind it. Through the glass, he saw her approaching. Their eyes met. She could have kept walking. Instead, she stopped several feet from the office door. The guard stood and came out slowly. His badge remained clipped neatly to his uniform. For a moment, neither spoke. Ms. Carter, he said, I owe you an apology that is different from the one I gave earlier. She waited. I said I was sorry you were embarrassed. That made it sound like the problem was how you felt about what I did. He glanced toward the desk where she had stood that morning. The problem was what I did. Her expression did not change, but she listened. I had a way to verify you. I used that process for someone else, and I did not use it for you. I told myself I was being careful. He paused. I cannot defend the difference. Ms. Carter looked at him steadily. Do you understand why that difference matters even if I never come back here? He glanced toward the entrance, where strangers crossed the marble floor carrying briefcases, packages, coffee cups, and visitor documents. I think I am beginning to. She nodded once. Beginning is not the same as understanding. No, he said. It is not. The gate beside them opened with a soft electronic tone as another employee tapped a badge. Miss Carter adjusted the portfolio beneath her arm and walked toward the revolving doors. Behind her, the guard looked at the security desk, then at the telephone he could have picked up 20 minutes earlier. For the first time that morning, he understood that the call he had refused to make had never really been about knowing who she was. It had been about whether he had been willing to find out. 4 days later, Ms. Carter received a call from Chairman Bennett's office. She was sitting at her kitchen table with the revised implementation proposal open beside her laptop when his name appeared on the screen. Bennett did not waste time with formalities. The review had expanded beyond the incident she experienced. Security management had examined months of visitor exceptions, including cases where names were missing, appointments were entered incorrectly, or employees had forgotten to register guests. The pattern was not dramatic enough to fit into a simple accusation, but it was inconsistent enough that leadership could no longer call it random. Some visitors had been given immediate verification calls. Others had been questioned longer or required to produce additional information before anyone attempted the same basic confirmation. So what happens now? Ms. Carter asked. Bennett explained that the company was replacing informal judgment calls with a documented verification sequence. When identification matched the information provided by a visitor but authorization was missing, security would contact the listed host or the appropriate reception desk. If that failed, a supervisor would make the next decision. Exceptions would be recorded, including the reason for approval or denial. And the guard? She asked. Bennett paused. The review found no prior formal complaints that justified immediate termination, but it confirmed that he handled your visit inconsistently. He received formal disciplinary action, mandatory retraining, and temporary removal of independent exception authority. His supervisor will review his decisions when he returns to that responsibility. Ms. Carter looked through the window beside her table. She had not asked for the man to lose his job. She had also not wanted an apology to become a substitute for accountability. That sounds fair, she said. Fair is what we are trying to make measurable, Bennett replied. The sentence stayed with her after the call ended. The following week, Ms. Carter returned to headquarters for the second executive meeting. This time she arrived at 9:45. The revolving doors opened onto the same marble lobby, the same polished security desk, the same glass access gates. Her body remembered the room before her mind could dismiss it. She felt her shoulders tighten slightly as she crossed the floor. The guard was there. He saw her approaching and stood straighter, but he did not perform an exaggerated welcome or pretend they were suddenly friends. Good morning, Ms. Carter. Good morning. She placed her identification on the counter. He accepted it, checked the visitor system, and found her appointment. You are registered for 10 o'clock with the executive office. He printed the badge and placed it beside her identification. You are cleared. She picked them up. Thank you. His hand moved toward the gate control, then stopped when a young black man approached the neighboring side of the desk carrying a messenger bag and a document envelope. Excuse me, the young man said. I am supposed to meet someone in legal, but I think my visitor registration may be under the company I work for. The guard turned toward him. Ms. Carter remained near the gate without intending to listen, but the exchange was close enough to hear. The young man provided identification and the name of his contact. The guard searched the system. Nothing appeared. For a brief second, Ms. Carter saw the familiar problem return: a missing name, an uncertain visitor, a decision waiting to be made. The guard looked at the young man, then at the identification. I am not finding the registration, he said. The young man's face tightened. I have an email if that helps. It might. But first, let me call legal reception and verify your contact. The guard picked up the telephone. No suspicion entered his voice. No question about whether the young man had the right building. No instruction to step away while others passed. He located the internal number, made the call, and waited. Yes, I have him here now. He listened. Understood. Thank you. He hung up and began printing a badge. The entire process took less than a minute. They are expecting you on the 23rd floor. Relief crossed the young man's face. Thank you. I thought I had messed something up. The registration did not transfer correctly, the guard said. That is not on you. He handed over the badge. Ms. Carter watched quietly. The guard looked toward her only after the young man had moved toward the elevators. Their eyes met across the desk. Neither needed to mention the previous week. The new procedure? She asked. Yes. He paused. But I should have done that before anyone had to write it down for me. Ms. Carter considered him for a moment. There was no reason to reward him for meeting a standard that should always have existed. But there was also no reason to deny the significance of someone recognizing that change required more than defending his intentions. What matters is what you do when nobody important is standing behind the person you are questioning, she said. The guard nodded. I know that now. Ms. Carter glanced toward the elevator where the young visitor had disappeared. Keep knowing it. A faint expression of humility crossed the guard's face. I will. He pressed the gate control. The light changed to green. Ms. Carter stepped through, then stopped on the other side and turned back. One more thing. The guard waited. You asked me last week whether I understood the security concerns. I remember. I did. I always did. I was never asking you to make the building less secure. She looked at the telephone on the desk. I was asking you not to make fairness optional. He followed her gaze. Understood. This time she believed he meant it. She turned toward the elevators as the gate closed softly behind her, leaving the guard at his desk with the same responsibility he had always carried, but no longer with the comfort of believing that instinct alone was the same thing as judgment. The second meeting ended shortly after noon, and when Ms. Carter stepped out of the executive elevator, the lobby looked almost ordinary again. Employees crossed the marble floor carrying coffee and folders. Visitors waited at the security desk. Badge readers gave their familiar electronic chirps. Nothing about the room announced that anything important had changed. Chairman Bennett had approved the first phase of the initiative she had presented, but the morning downstairs from the previous week was not mentioned during the meeting. She preferred it that way. Her work did not need the incident to make it valuable. As she approached the security gates, she saw the guard assisting an older white woman whose appointment was missing from the system. He checked her identification, asked for the employee's name, and called the appropriate office. The answer came quickly. He printed a badge and wished her a good afternoon. A few minutes later, a black delivery driver approached with a package and an incomplete suite number. The guard did the same thing. He asked for the company name, checked the directory, called the receiving department, and waited for confirmation. His tone did not change. His patience did not change. The amount of proof he required did not change. Ms. Carter slowed slightly, but said nothing. The guard noticed her near the exit. Their eyes met, and he gave a small nod. She returned it. That was enough. There was no dramatic friendship between them, and no reason there should be. What happened had consequences. An apology did not erase the humiliation of standing beside the glass wall while strangers passed her. Retraining did not return the minutes she had spent wondering whether senior leadership believed she had failed to appear. But accountability had done something more useful than pretending the morning had never happened. It had changed what happened to the next person. 3 weeks later, Chairman Bennett sent her a summary of the completed visitor review. The company had standardized verification procedures across all corporate entrances. Supervisors were now required to audit exceptions each month. Security staff had completed additional training focused on consistent decision-making, documentation, and bias awareness. None of it was presented as a perfect solution. Policies could not eliminate every assumption people carried into work with them. They could, however, make those assumptions harder to turn into unequal treatment without explanation. Ms. Carter read the summary once, closed the email, and returned to her work. Months passed. Her consulting relationship with the company expanded, and visits to headquarters became routine. Some mornings she entered through the lobby without seeing the guard. Other mornings he was there, processing visitors with the same measured sequence of questions. They exchanged professional greetings and little more. Then one cold morning near the end of the year, Ms. Carter arrived while a young black woman stood at the desk, holding an identification card and looking nervously at her phone. "I am here for an interview," the young woman said. "Talent development. 10:30. The guard searched the system. "I am not seeing your name." The young woman's face fell. "I know I am in the right place. They sent me the address yesterday." Ms. Carter stopped several yards away. For a moment, the scene felt painfully familiar. Same desk, same missing name, same uncertainty in the visitor's face. But the guard did not lean back or question whether she belonged there. "That happens sometimes," he said. "Who is your recruiter?" The young woman gave him the name. "All right, let me verify it." He located the internal number and called. While he waited, the young woman opened her email. "I can show you the confirmation. Keep it handy, but I have the department now." Someone answered. The guard identified himself, provided the visitor's name, and listened. "Yes, she is here." He smiled faintly. "Understood." He hung up and printed a temporary badge. "You are expected on the 18th floor. Your recruiter will meet you by reception." Relief softened the young woman's shoulders. "Thank you. Good luck with the interview." The gate flashed green. She walked through and hurried toward the elevators. Ms. Carter remained still for another second. The guard looked up and saw her. Neither spoke about the first morning. There was nothing left to argue. He had not helped the young woman because the chairman was watching. Chairman Bennett was nowhere in sight. He had not helped her because Ms. Carter was important. The young woman had no powerful title that he knew of, no executive standing beside her, no reason to receive special treatment. She had simply presented a problem that required verification, and he had verified it. Ms. Carter approached the desk and placed her identification on the counter. The guard checked the system. "Good morning, Ms. Carter. You are confirmed for 10 o'clock. He returned her identification and printed the badge. "Thank you." The gate opened. She stepped through, then glanced back toward the entrance. Morning light crossed the marble and reflected against the glass wall where she had once been told to stand aside. Another visitor entered carrying a briefcase. The guard greeted him, asked for identification, and began the same process again. Ms. Carter turned toward the elevators. Behind her, the access light changed from red to green. The gate opened, someone passed through, and it closed again with a quiet click.